Think you know everything there is to know about the IPL? Of course you do. Well, now it's time to test your knowledge in our little game. It's pretty simple. I'm going to read some statements. Some are absolute facts and others, well, they couldn't be further from the truth. And you have to guess which ones are fact and which ones are a big old myth. Fact or myth? Aaron Finch once missed an IPL game because his kit bag didn't arrive in time. Believe it or not, this is an absolute fact. Back in the 2017 edition of the IPL, Finchie missed an away game for the Gujarat Lions against Mumbai because his kit bag didn't arrive in time from Rajkot. And I know what you're thinking, why didn't he just borrow a bat and some pads from someone else and play, right? Well, sponsorship commitments actually makes it very difficult for cricketers to go out there in the IPL and play in gear that's, well, not their own. As a matter of fact, if you fast forward 1 year later in 2018's edition of the IPL, Finchie also missed his first IPL game because he had a very valid reason this time. He got married. Glenn Maxwell also missed out because guess what? He was the master of ceremonies. Fact or myth? Virat Kohli once played an IPL match with 7 stitches in his hand. This, guys, is an absolute fact. Back in 2016, Virat Kohli actually split the webbing in his left hand while fielding in a game for RCB against Kolkata. He had to get stitches before RCB's next game against Punjab. And guess what? In true King Kohli fashion, he fought through the pain and managed to make 113 runs off just 50 balls. Fact or myth? Chris Gayle went unsold in the 2018 IPL auction. Come on, guys, this is an absolute myth. And I know on Google you will find plenty stories with this title, but trust me, they are misleading. Sure, he was 38 at the time and he did go unsold on the first day over 2 rounds, but on the second day his name was brought back and Kings 11 Punjab managed to snap up the Universe Boss. So that means the only time the Universe Boss ever went unsold was back in 2011. Fact or myth? The mongoose bat used by Matthew Hayden in the 2010 edition of the IPL was banned. Believe it or not, guys, this is an actual myth. Now, for those of you that remember the 2010 edition of the IPL, Matthew Hayden donned a very interesting looking bat called the mongoose bat, which was supposed to help making the ball go further and make it easier to play against Yorkers. Now, CSK captain MS Dhoni actually advised against him using it, but did he listen? Absolutely not. He went on to use it with some relative success, so much so that the ICC had talks looking into banning the bat, but eventually they didn't do so. Fact or myth? Kieron Pollard once taped up his mouth while fielding during an IPL match. Guess what, guys? This is an absolute fact. If you'll remember in 2016, during a match between the Mumbai Indians and Royal Challengers Bangalore in Bangalore, Chris Gayle, the Universe Boss, and Kieron Pollard himself engaged in a little bit of good old West Indian banter. So much so that it kind of ticked off the umpire and he told him to zip it. So what did Polly do? He went and got some tape and taped up his mouth and fielded. Fact or myth? Rashid Khan was the first associate player to be bought in an IPL auction. Sorry guys, this one's an actual myth. As popular as Rashid Khan is, that distinction actually belongs to Ryan Tendershay, who played 5 seasons for Kolkata after he was bought in 2011. Actually, there's another associate player that has also played in the IPL before Rashid, and that honor goes to Kenya's Tanmay Mishra, where he was bought by the Deccan Chargers in 2012. Fact or myth? Michael Holding, the legendary West Indian fast bowler and commentator, has never commentated on an IPL game. This is an absolute fact. Now, if you know Mikey like I know Mikey, he's never even commentated on a T20 match, period. Why? Because Mikey believes that Test cricket is king. He says he only commentates on real cricket, and for him, he has criticized players over the years for prioritizing T20 cricket and seeing the decline in Test cricket. Fact or myth? The Chennai Super Kings' success in the IPL is largely built on their home form. This is a big old fact, and you guys know it, because Chennai Super Kings have won 72% of their matches at home. That, of course, tops the league, considering the next closest is the Mumbai Indians with 64% of a win percentage at home. As a matter of fact, that is probably a large reason why Chennai have been able to make it to every single playoff since the IPL began. Fact or myth? The UAE, that's hosting this year's IPL, has actually had some very low run rates of late. This, unfortunately, guys, is an actual fact. Over the last 5 years, the UAE has boasted run rates of 7.54. That's actually the lowest of all the countries in the world that have hosted 20 or more T20s. So buckle up, guys. We're going to expect some low totals this year. Fact or myth? The Kolkata Knight Riders used different captains for different matches back in the 2009 edition. This is a myth, or kind of. John Buchanan's four-captain theory, remember that? Probably not, and no shame there, because that was way back in 2009 where Buchanan himself had an idea of using different captains for different matches. But once the tournament actually started, Brendan McCullum was named as captain, and according to Sourav Ganguly's autobiography, the three other captains were an analyst, a bowling coach, and Buchanan himself. Fact or myth? Bihar's former deputy chief minister once had an IPL contract. Believe it or not, guys, this one is an absolute fact. Tejashwi Yadav is a big name in Indian politics, but back in 2008, he was actually contracted by the Delhi Daredevils, and despite never having played a game for Delhi, he was retained for 5 whole seasons. Fact or myth? The Pune Warriors and the Kochi Tuskers Kerala were scrapped from the IPL because the BCCI wanted to go back to an 8-team tournament. This is actually a myth. Now, both franchises managed to enter the IPL in 2011, but the Kochi Tuskers Kerala only managed to last 1 season, and then they were eliminated by the BCCI over finances. The Pune Warriors managed to go on for another 2 seasons, but it was only a matter of time before they too were scrapped by the BCCI over, you guessed it, more financial reasons.